Maya Stone walked into the hearing room with her head held high. Her blue uniform was perfect. Not a single wrinkle anywhere. The medals on her chest caught the light from the ceiling. She looked straight ahead as the doors closed behind her. With a soft click, the room was huge and cold. 7 judges sat behind a curved desk that looked like it was made from black glass. They were not human. The tall, thin creatures with silver skin were Altarians. Their large eyes never blinked as they watched her. Next to them sat the Vorthik, beings that looked like walking crystals. Light moved through their bodies in strange patterns. At the end of the row, a cloud of blue gas floated in a special container. That was a Nebulan judge. Only one human sat with them. Commander Jake Morrison looked tired. His gray hair was messy, and his face showed worry lines. He had tried to help Maya before this hearing, but there was only so much he could do. Maya stopped in front of the judges and stood at attention. Her hands stayed at her sides. She did not look scared, even though she probably should have been. Altarian in the center spoke first. Its voice sounded like music, but cold music without feeling. Lieutenant Commander Maya Stone, you stand before this court charged with serious crimes against military order. The crystal being next to it made sounds like breaking glass. A machine translated its words. Unauthorized changes to ship systems. Failure to follow direct orders. Putting crew members in danger without permission. The blue gas cloud pulsed. Brighter. Its translator spoke in a voice that sounded like wind. Most serious of all, you acted alone in battle when you should have waited for help. Your actions changed the outcome of the Zephyrian conflict. Maya said nothing. She just listened and waited. 3 months earlier, everything had been different. Maya was serving on the ship called Liberty's Edge. It was not a big ship, but it was fast. The crew came from different worlds. Her second in command was Lieutenant Ben Carter, a human engineer who could fix anything. The weapons officer was a young Zephyrian named Quicksilver Runs. The navigation officer was an Altarian called Harmony of Stars. They were supposed to be on a quiet patrol near the Helix Nebula. The mission was simple. Check on the space routes. Make sure no pirates were bothering the trade ships. Report back to base. Nothing dangerous was supposed to happen, but space never cared about what was supposed to happen. The first sign of trouble came from their sensors. Quicksilver Runs was the first to see it. Captain, I am detecting a very large ship. It is moving toward the merchant convoy in Sector 7. Maya looked at the screen. The ship was huge, maybe a mile long. It was black and covered with weapons. She knew what it was right away. That's a Ravager dreadnought. The Ravagers were pirates, but not normal ones. They had ships that could destroy entire space stations. They took everything valuable and killed everyone else. Most military ships ran away when they saw a Ravager dreadnought. Harmony of Stars spoke in its musical voice. Standard procedure requires us to retreat and call for reinforcements. A ship our size cannot fight a dreadnought. Maya looked at the convoy on her screen. 5 merchant ships full of families and supplies. They were slow and had no weapons. A dreadnought would reach them in 20 minutes. Help from the fleet would take 3 hours. Captain, Ben said quietly, we have to do something. Maya studied the enemy ship on her screen. It was huge and powerful, but something about it seemed wrong. The way it moved was strange. It kept changing direction slightly, like it was having trouble staying on course. Ben, look at their engine signature. Do you see that flickering? The engineer checked his instruments. Yeah, their rear engines are running hot. Probably damaged in their last fight. Maya felt an idea forming in her mind. It was crazy, but crazy ideas sometimes worked. What if we used the medical scanner? The medical scanner? Ben looked confused. Captain, that's for checking if people are sick. It's also a quantum resonance device. It sends out very precise energy waves. Maya was thinking fast now. If we boost the power and target their damaged engines, ... Quicksilver runs made a noise that sounded like surprise. That would require us to get very close to the enemy ship. It would be extremely dangerous. And against regulations, harmony of stars. Added, medical equipment is not supposed to be used as a weapon. Maya looked at each of her crew members. I'm not ordering anyone to do this, but those merchant ships have families on them. Kids, old people, workers just trying to get home. Ben was already moving toward his station. I can reroute power from life support to the medical bay. We'll have about 10 minutes of air, but it might work. The Zephyrian looked nervous, but nodded. I will plot a course that brings us close to their weak spot. Harmony of Stars was quiet for a long moment. Then it said, I will coordinate our communications with the merchant ships. They should know to run when we attack. What happened next became famous throughout the galaxy. Maya's small ship flew straight at the enormous dreadnought. The Ravagers probably thought the humans were crazy. They were right out at the last second. The Liberty's Edge turned sharply and flew along the dreadnought's damaged section. Ben fired the modified medical scanner directly into their engine core. The quantum energy caused a cascade failure that shut down half the enemy ship. The dreadnought was left floating helpless in space. The merchant ships escaped. The Ravager captain sent a message saying he had never seen anything so crazy in 40 years of piracy. Maya and her crew were heroes. The news services called it Stone's Gambit. Military schools wanted to study what they had done. The Alliance. High Command gave them medals, but the Academy was not happy. Now Maya stood in the hearing room, listening to the charges against her. The judges did not care that she had saved lives. They cared that she had broken rules. The Altarian judge spoke. Again. Lieutenant Commander Stone, how do you answer these charges? Maya took a breath and looked directly at the crystal being in the center. I did what needed to be done. When people are in danger, you help them. That's what humans do. The Nebulans. Gas cloud pulsed red with anger. You violated direct orders. You used equipment in ways it was never designed for. You put your entire crew at risk. Yes, Maya said simply. I did all of those things. The crystal judge made sharp sounds. Do you show any regret for your actions? Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that would be remembered for years. My only regret is that it took 3 Alliance fleets 6 months to accomplish what one ship did in 10 minutes. Maybe the problem isn't that I broke the rules. Maybe the problem is that your rules don't work. The room became very quiet. Even Jake Morrison looked shocked. No one talked to the Academy judges like that. But Maya was not done. You want to know what I really think? I think you're all scared. You've been fighting wars the same way for thousands of years. Then humans show up and start winning battles you said were impossible. That terrifies you. The judges looked at each other. They spoke in their own languages, too fast for the translators to keep up. Maya just stood there and waited to learn. Her fate. She had told them the truth. Now she would have to live with whatever came next. Maya woke up to alarms screaming throughout the academy. Red lights flashed in the hallways as students and instructors ran toward the main command center. She quickly put on her uniform and joined the crowd rushing through the corridors. Command center was chaos. Huge screens showed star maps with red warning symbols scattered across them. Admiral Park stood in the center of the room, talking rapidly with other senior officers. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory's crystal body was flashing so fast it looked like a strobe light. Maya pushed through the crowd until she could see the main display. 12 different star systems were under attack at the same time. Ships that nobody recognized were hitting Alliance worlds across the galaxy. The attackers appeared suddenly, struck hard, and then vanished before help could arrive. What's happening? Maya asked a nearby instructor. The green-scaled reptilian officer looked grim. The Void Syndicate. We've heard rumors about them for months, but this is the first major attack. They came from outside the galaxy, from the empty space between star systems. On the screens, Maya could see footage from the attacks. The enemy ships were black and smooth, with no obvious weapons or engines. They moved in ways that made no sense, turning without slowing down and accelerating without visible thrust. When they fired, beams of pure darkness cut through Alliance defenses like they were made of paper. Admiral Park noticed Maya in the crowd and waved her over. "Stone, I want you to see this. Dr. Alex Rivera has been studying the attack patterns." Dr. Rivera was a small man with thick glasses and messy brown hair. He pointed at different symbols on the star map. "Look at the targets they chose. Kepler Station has our best sensor arrays. New Geneva has our main communication hub. Titan Base is where we test new weapons." Maya studied the map carefully. They're not trying to conquer territory. They're learning about us. Exactly, Dr. Rivera said, looking surprised. Most of our analysts think this is a standard invasion. But you see it too. They're studying our capabilities, testing our response times, figuring out our weaknesses. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory approached them, his crystal body now pulsing with steady white light. "Student Stone, your observation is noted, but irrelevant. Standard defensive protocols will contain this threat once we understand their technology." "Will they?" Maya asked. "These ships don't follow any known physics. They attack in ways that make no sense. How do you defend against something that breaks all the rules?" The crystal being's light patterns shifted to show annoyance. "Every technology follows rules. Every enemy has weaknesses. We simply need more data to determine the proper counter-strategy." Maya looked at the battle footage again. Something bothered her about the way the enemy ships moved. They seemed to react differently in each attack, almost like they were trying different approaches to see what worked best. "Admiral," Maya said slowly, "what if we're thinking about this wrong? What if the reason we can't understand their tactics is because they're learning ours?" Admiral Park raised an eyebrow. "Explain. Look at the timing. Each attack happens just after our fleets respond to the previous one. They're watching how we fight and adapting their next attack to counter our moves." Maya pointed at the timeline. "On the screen. They're not following a plan. They're making it up as they go along." Dr. Rivera's eyes went wide behind his glasses. That would explain why they seemed so unpredictable. They're not using established tactics because they don't have any. They're improvising. "Which means," Maya continued, "that our standard responses are actually helping them. Every time we follow protocol, we're teaching them how to beat us." The room fell silent. Officers and instructors stared at Maya like she had just said something impossible. In their world of careful planning and established doctrine, the idea of an enemy that made things up as they went along was terrifying. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory's crystal body flashed angry red. "This theory is absurd. No military force operates without established tactical doctrine. What you suggest would be chaos." "Maybe," Maya said quietly. "But chaos might be exactly what we need to fight them." Admiral Park stepped closer to Maya. "What do you have in mind?" Maya looked around the room at all the brilliant military minds staring at her. These were beings who had studied warfare for centuries, who could calculate the outcome of battles before they started, who knew every classical strategy ever used. And that was exactly the problem. "They're learning to counter everything we do because we're predictable," Maya explained. "Every species in the Alliance fights according to their nature. Altarians use perfect coordination. Vorthic use pure logic. Zephyrians use mathematical precision. But humans ... Humans break the rules. Admiral Park finished, understanding. Dawning in her eyes, "We don't just break rules," Maya said. "We don't even know we're supposed to follow them half the time. We improvise, we adapt, we do things that don't make sense to anyone else." Including ourselves. Double quotes. Dr. Rivera was frantically taking notes. The psychological profiles support this. Humans are the only species that consistently surprises their own military analysts. Your tactics are unpredictable, even to other humans. Maya nodded. So if we want to beat an enemy that learns from our responses, we need to use responses they can't learn from. We need to use tactics that are so unpredictable that even we don't know what we're going to do next. The silence in the room was deafening. Then Master Crystalline Voice of Victory made a sound like breaking crystal. "You are suggesting we abandon 10,000 years of military science. You want us to fight like barbarians." "I'm suggesting we fight like humans," Maya replied calmly. "Because right now, that might be the only thing that works." Admiral Park looked at the tactical displays showing 12 burning worlds. The conventional response was already failing. Alliance fleets were arriving at attack sites to find empty space and destroyed bases. The enemy was always one step ahead. What would you need? The Admiral asked. Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. "I need a fleet of volunteers. Ships crewed by people who think differently. Not the best students or the most decorated officers. I need the misfits. The rule breakers. The ones who do things wrong and somehow make them work." "That is insane," Master Crystalline Voice of Victory declared. "You want to entrust the galaxy's defense to failures and misfits?" "I want to entrust it to people who can think outside the box," Maya corrected. "Because right now, thinking inside the box is getting us killed." Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment, studying the star map with its red warning symbols. Finally, she turned to Maya. "How many ships would you need?" 12, Maya said immediately. "One for each attack site. Small, fast ships with crews that can make decisions without waiting for orders. Each ship acts independently, following their own instincts. That violates every principle of fleet coordination," an Altarian officer protested. "Ships must work together according to predetermined plans." "That's exactly why it might work," Maya replied. "The enemy can't predict our fleet movements if we don't coordinate them. They can't learn our tactics if we don't have any." Dr. Rivera looked up from his notes. "The Academy has records of thousands of officers who were dismissed for unconventional thinking. Students who failed courses because they refused to follow standard procedures. We could contact them." Master Crystalline Voice of Victory's crystal body was now pulsing with rapid, angry flashes. "This is madness. You want to give command authority to beings who have proven themselves unfit for military service." Maya looked directly at the crystal instructor. "No, I want to give command authority to beings who think differently." "There's a difference." Admiral Park made her decision. "You'll have your fleet stone, but understand this. If your plan fails, the Academy will disavow any connection to it. You'll be completely on your own." Maya nodded. She had expected that. "And if it succeeds?" "If it succeeds," Admiral Park said slowly, "then everything we think we know about warfare is wrong. And you'll be the one who proved it." As the alarms continued to wail throughout the Academy, Maya began making a mental list of all the rule breakers, misfits, and failed students she had met during her time at the school. Tomorrow, she would be contacting them with the strangest job offer in galactic history. She was going to ask them to save the galaxy by being themselves, the Academy's greatest. Fear was about to become its only hope, and Maya Stone was going to lead an army of failures against an enemy that couldn't be beaten by success. The irony was not lost on her. After years of being told she didn't fit in, she was finally going to find out if not fitting in was exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 weeks after the hearing, Maya found herself walking through the halls of the Galactic Defense Academy. The building was enormous, with walls made of white stone that seemed to glow from within. Students from dozens of different worlds hurried past her, carrying data tablets and wearing uniforms from their home planets. Maya's punishment was strange. Instead of being kicked out of the military, she had been assigned to the Academy's most important program. Advanced Strategic Studies was where the galaxy's best military minds learned to become generals and admirals. Only the smartest students were chosen. She met Admiral Lisa Park in a small office that overlooked the Academy's main courtyard. The older woman had gray hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. She poured 2 cups of coffee and sat down across from Maya. "They're setting you up to fail," Admiral Park said without any introduction. "You know that, right?" Maya took a sip of coffee. It was good, much better than what they served on ships. "I figured as much. They can't kick me out because I'm a hero to the media, but they can make me wash out of the hardest program in the galaxy." "Master Crystalline Voice of Victory is your main instructor," the Admiral continued. "He's a Vorthik who has never lost a war game in 300 years. His tactical mind can process 1,000,000 variables in seconds. He thinks human unpredictability is a disease that needs to be cured." Maya nodded. She had heard about the crystal being. He was famous for creating battle plans so perfect that enemies gave up rather than fight them. "What about the other students?" "Prince Mathematical Precision is here from the Zephyrian Empire. He can calculate the exact outcome of any battle before it starts. Then there's Collective Mind 7, an Altarian group consciousness that thinks, with 1,000 brains at once. And Unit Prime, a synthetic intelligence from the machine worlds that knows every battle in galactic history." Maya whistled softly. "And they expect me to keep up with them?" Admiral Park smiled for the first time. "They expect you to break. To prove that humans don't belong at the highest levels of military command. What they don't understand is that breaking rules is what humans do best." The first class was in a huge room with no windows. Students sat at individual stations with screens and controls. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory stood at the front, light moving through his crystal body like slow lightning. When he spoke, his words came out as sharp sounds that machines translated. "Today we begin with the fundamental laws of warfare," the crystal being announced. "These principles have guided successful military campaigns for 10,000 years. They are absolute truths that cannot be broken." Maya looked around at her classmates. Prince Mathematical Precision was already taking notes on a device that looked like a floating metal ball. Collective Mind 7 sat perfectly still, probably sharing thoughts among all its connected minds. Unit Prime's optical sensors glowed as it recorded every word. "The first law," Master Crystalline Voice of Victory continued, "is that superior numbers always defeat inferior numbers. The second law is that advanced technology always defeats primitive technology. The third law is that careful planning always defeats hasty action." Maya raised her hand. The crystal being's light patterns shifted, probably showing surprise. "Yes, Student Stone? What about the Battle of Thermopylae? 300 Spartans held off an army of thousands. Or the Battle of Midway, where older planes defeated newer ones? Or D-Day, where the Allies succeeded because they moved faster than the enemy expected?" The room became very quiet. Other students turned to stare at Maya. Prince Mathematical Precision's floating note-taker stopped. "Moving. Those are ancient human conflicts," Master Crystalline Voice of Victory said coldly. "Primitive warfare with no relevance to modern strategy." "But they show that your laws can be broken," Maya replied. "Maybe the laws themselves are the problem." "They?" Instructor's crystal body flashed bright red. We will proceed with the lesson. Students will memorize the 17 fundamental laws before tomorrow's examination. After class, Maya walked to the cafeteria with her new classmates. They sat at a table by themselves, away from the other students. Prince Mathematical Precision spoke first. "Your questions in class were statistically improbable," he said. His voice sounded like music played at the wrong speed. "Why did you challenge established doctrine on your first day?" "Because established doctrine might be wrong," Maya said simply. "Just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it's the best way." Collective Mind 7 spoke with 7 voices at once, creating a strange harmony. "We have analyzed your service record. Your success rate is remarkably high despite your disregard for proper procedure. This creates a logical contradiction that troubles us." Unit primed sensors focused. On Maya. "My memory banks contain records of 47,000 significant military engagements. In 98.7% of cases, following standard protocol led to victory. Your methods should not work." "But they do work," Maya said. "Maybe that's because your memory banks don't include everything. Maybe there are things that can't be calculated or predicted." The real test came 2 weeks later. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory announced the impossible scenario simulation. It was a war game that had been used for centuries to teach students about accepting defeat with honor. The situation was simple. A single ship had to defend the mining colony against a fleet of pirates. The pirates had more ships, better weapons, and faster engines. Every conventional strategy led to defeat. The point was to show students that some battles could not be won. Maya's classmates approached the problem logically. Prince Mathematical Precision calculated that the colony would fall in exactly 4 hours and 12 minutes. Collective Mind 7 analyzed 10,000 possible strategies and found them all inadequate. Unit Prime recommended immediate evacuation as the only rational choice, but Maya did something none of them expected. She asked to speak with the colony's civilian population. "Why would you waste time talking to non-combatants?" Master Crystalline Voice of Victory asked. "They have no military value, don't they?" Maya replied. "They live here. They know this place better than anyone." The simulation allowed her to contact the colony. Maya spoke with miners, shop owners, families, and even children. She asked them about the local area, about their equipment, about anything that might be useful. She learned that the mining operation used controlled explosions to break up asteroids. The colonists had communication equipment spread across a dozen moons. The local merchant guild knew the pirates personally and had dealt with them before. Maya's plan was crazy, even by human standards. She organized the colonists into an early warning network, with families on distant moons watching for incoming ships. She convinced the miners to use their explosives to create an artificial asteroid field that would force the pirates to approach. Slowly, but the strangest part was when she contacted the pirate leader directly. "I want to make a deal," she told the surprised pirate captain. "I'll give you something more valuable than this colony." "What could be more valuable than an entire mining operation?" the pirate asked. "Information about Academy tactical weaknesses." Maya replied. "Things I've learned by watching how they train their officers. Knowledge that could help you avoid their fleets and find easier targets." The simulation ended with the colony saved, the pirates hired as irregular defenders, and the Academy instructors in complete shock. Maya had not only won an impossible scenario, she had done it by breaking every rule of military engagement. Master. Crystalline Voice of Victory's crystal body flashed angry red patterns. "This is completely unacceptable. You have corrupted the purity of tactical science. You negotiated with criminals. You used civilians in military operations. You revealed classified information. I saved the colony," Maya said calmly. Isn't that what matters? You cheated, the crystal being accused. No, Maya replied. I thought differently. There's a difference. Prince Mathematical Precision was staring at his calculations. The probability of this solution was so low that I did not even consider it. How did you know it would work? I didn't know, Maya admitted. I just tried something that hadn't been tried before. That night, Maya received a message from Admiral Park. The Admiral wanted to see her immediately in her office. When Maya arrived, she found Admiral Park pacing back and forth behind her desk. The older woman looked both excited and worried. Master Crystalline Voice of Victory has filed a formal complaint, the Admiral said. He wants you expelled for corrupting military education. He says you're teaching other students to ignore established doctrine. Maya sat down in a chair. Am I going to be kicked out? Admiral Park stopped pacing and looked directly at her. That depends. How do you feel about changing the way the entire galaxy thinks about warfare? Maya blinked in surprise. What do you mean? I mean that your little simulation has triggered something bigger than you realize. The Academy Council is asking questions they've never asked before. Questions about whether our teaching methods are outdated. Questions about whether humans might have military insights that other species lack. The Admiral sat down and leaned forward. Maya, I think you're about to find out that the Academy isn't just afraid of you. They're afraid of what you represent. And that fear might be the key to everything. Captain Maya Stone stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Wildcard. It was not the biggest or fastest ship in the fleet, but it was perfect for what she needed. The bridge was small enough that her crew could talk to each other without fancy communication systems. The ship was old enough that it needed constant repairs, which meant her crew had to be creative to keep it running. Her fleet of 12 ships floated in space, near the edge of Alliance territory. Each ship was different, crewed by people that the Academy had given up on. These were the officers who asked too many questions, the engineers who built things that should not work, and the pilots who flew in ways that made their instructors nervous. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Black was her second in command. He had been kicked out of engineering school for building a faster-than-light engine using spare parts from a food processor. It should not have worked, but it did. Major Kate Sullivan commanded the Marine Forces. She had been disciplined for ending a hostage situation by challenging the terrorist leader to a card game and winning. But Maya's crew was not just humans. She had convinced other species to join her too. Commander Sharp Thoughts in Darkness was a Vorthok who made decisions based on feelings instead of logic. His own people thought he was broken, but Maya thought he was perfect. Lieutenant Harmony Breaks Free was an Altarian who had left the collective mind to think for herself. Pilot Swift Chaos Dancing was a Zephyrian who deliberately made mistakes to confuse his enemies. The news media had started calling them Stone's Irregulars. The name stuck. Maya did not mind. Irregular was exactly what they needed to be. Captain, Ryan called from his station. We're getting reports of Void Syndicate. Ships near the Centauri system. 3 enemy vessels moving toward the mining colonies. Maya looked at the star chart. Centauri was important because it supplied raw materials to half the Alliance. If the enemy took it, thousands of people would lose their jobs and homes. More importantly, the Alliance would lose a major source of shipbuilding materials. How long until the main fleet arrives? Maya asked. 6 hours, Kate replied. The enemy will be long gone by then, just like all the other attacks. Maya nodded. That was the pattern. The Void Syndicate would hit fast, learn what they could about Alliance defenses, and then disappear before reinforcements arrived. Had done it 12 times already. All ships, this is Captain Stone, Maya announced over the communication system. We're going to Centauri. Each ship picks their own approach route. No coordination, no predetermined plan. Trust your instincts and do whatever feels right. Commander Sharp Thoughts in Darkness spoke up from his station. His translated voice sounded confused. Captain, how will we work together if we do not plan together? We won't work together, Maya said simply. We'll work separately, but at the same time, each ship does their own thing. The enemy can't predict what we're going to do if we don't know what we're going to do. The fleet scattered as soon as they entered the Centauri system. Maya watched on her screen as 11 other ships headed in completely different directions. To any normal military observer, it would look like chaos. Maya hoped that was exactly how it looked to the enemy too. The wild card approached Centauri from the direction of the local sun. Maya figured that the bright light would make them harder to spot. It was not a sophisticated plan, but sometimes simple worked better than complicated. Enemy ships detected, announced Lieutenant Quicksilver Runs from the sensor station. 3 vessels, just like the report said. They're attacking the main mining platform. Maya could see the battle on her screen. The Void Syndicate ships moved like black ghosts, appearing and disappearing as they struck the platform's defenses. Their weapons fired beams of darkness that seemed to eat light itself. The mining platform's shields were failing. Ryan, are you ready with your special modifications? Maya asked. The engineer grinned. The food processor engine is running hot, Captain. I've also rigged the waste recycling system to emit random energy bursts. And the coffee machine is now broadcasting fake sensor readings. Maya laughed. Only Ryan would think to turn kitchen equipment into weapons. Do it. The wild card suddenly accelerated far faster than any ship its size should be able to move. At the same time, it started broadcasting dozens of false sensor signatures. 2. The enemy. It would look like an entire fleet was approaching from the sun. The Void Syndicate ships immediately changed their attack pattern. They had learned that Alliance ships always approached in formations, so they prepared to fight a coordinated assault. Instead, they got chaos. The ship called Lucky Strike appeared from behind one of Centauri's moons, firing weapons that should not exist. Captain Danny Torres had somehow turned his ship's gravity generator into a weapon that made enemy ships spin uncontrollably. The rebels' dream came from the opposite direction, broadcasting music at full volume while firing conventional weapons, in a pattern that looked like dancing. Captain Lisa Chong had always said that warfare should be beautiful. 11 other ships attacked from 11 different directions, using 11 different tactics that made no sense to anyone, including themselves. The Void Syndicate ships tried to adapt, but there was nothing consistent to adapt to. Maya watched as one enemy ship attempted to counter Captain Torres's gravity weapon by stabilizing its rotation. At that exact moment, Captain Chang's ship hit it with a barrage of missiles fired to the rhythm of classical music. The combination of predictable timing and unpredictable spacing overwhelmed the enemy's defenses. Captain, Quicksilver Runs called out. The enemy ships are sending signals to each other. Very fast data transmission. They're trying to share information, Maya realized. They're telling each other what they've learned about our tactics. What tactics? Ryan asked, laughing. We don't have any tactics. That was when Maya understood the real genius of her plan. The enemy ships were designed to learn and adapt, but they needed patterns to study. Stone's irregulars did not follow patterns. Every ship was making decisions based on the personality and instincts of its crew. There was nothing for the enemy to learn because there was no system to figure out. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it was over, all 3 Void Syndicate ships were either destroyed or disabled. For the first time since the attacks began, the Alliance had won a complete victory. Maya stood in the Academy's main conference room 2 weeks later. The same room where she had been disciplined for breaking rules was now filled with admirals and generals from across the galaxy. They all wanted to understand how her misfit fleet had accomplished what their best strategic minds could not. Admiral Park sat at the head of the table, looking proud and slightly amazed. "Captain Stone, the Alliance High Command has asked me to offer you a new position, Director of Adaptive Tactics, with authority to restructure our entire strategic curriculum." Maya looked around the room at all the beings who had once feared her unpredictability. Now they desperately needed it. What would that involve? "Teaching other officers to think like humans," Admiral Park explained. "Showing them that sometimes the best plan is to have no plan at all." Master Crystalline Voice of Victory sat at the far end of the table, his crystal body pulsing with dim, defeated light. "I still do not understand how chaos can defeat order." Maya smiled at the crystal being who had tried so hard to break her spirit. "That's exactly why it works. If you can't understand it, neither can the enemy." She accepted the position. Over the following months, officers from dozens of species came to learn the most dangerous skill in the galaxy, thinking like a human. Maya taught them to trust their instincts, to break rules when breaking rules made sense, and most importantly, to never do the same thing twice. The Academy's fear had become its salvation. The institution that once tried to suppress human unpredictability now depended on it. Maya Stone, the officer who had been punished for refusing to accept limitations, was now teaching the entire galaxy that limitations were just suggestions. On her first day as director, Maya stood before a classroom full of nervous students from across the Alliance. They had come to learn human tactics, but they still expected traditional lessons with rules and procedures. Instead, Maya asked them a simple question that terrified every military mind in the room. What if everything we know about warfare is wrong? The silence that followed was the sound of an entire galaxy beginning to think differently. Maya smiled and began the lesson that would change everything. She was going to teach them that sometimes being impossible was the most possible thing. Of all, the Academy had finally learned to stop fearing her. Now they feared what would happen if they didn't have her.